Hello and welcome again to another video by Econo Insight. This video is part of the unemployment playlist, and specifically this video will cover the household survey. The household survey is a tool to measure unemployment. It is also known as the current population survey, the CPS, and in the US, at the least, it is measured by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS, and the US Census Bureau. They work together, collaborate to produce this. So one might guess that in other countries, the statistical bureaus of that countries will measure or will conduct the household survey. So it is directed to households, as the name suggests, the household survey, and it asks households, people, if about their unemployment status. So this is from the side of the people. They ask people, "Hey, are you employed?" The details of your employment, so on and so forth. So this is to measure unemployment. So what is the formal definition of unemployment? Some of you might understand it, but it's kind of vague. Let's set it in stone. So unemployment rate is defined as the percentage of people who want to work. Keyword here, who want to work, but who do not have jobs. So they want to work. That should be like that. They want to work, but they don't have jobs, and hence they are unemployed. So how does the household survey help us do this? So if the household survey surveys a certain household, there are three categories in which they put a person. It's either employed, unemployed, or not in the labor force. What do these specifically mean? So employed, it's intuitive, it's paid employees, or self-employed people are also included. Or maybe you work unpaid in a family business, that's also included. So unpaid in family business, that counts as employment. So if you're either of this, you are employed. Unemployed is that if you have tried 4 weeks to find a job, but you still did not get a job, well, you are formally defined as unemployed and not in the labor force. Don't confuse this with unemployed. It's basically people who do not fit the categories of unemployed or employed. So what are they? Maybe they are retired people, retirees, retired people, or full-time students, probably full-time students, master's students, undergraduate students, or they could be a homemaker, housewife that is not in the labor force. And let's see. And there is a term, it's kind of derogatory, but economists sometimes do that. It's called discouraged workers. So discouraged workers are not in the labor force. So discouraged workers are basically people who have given up looking for jobs. Like for instance, in the COVID-19 pandemic, there are now a rise, for instance, in discouraged workers because people have given up looking for jobs because there are so minimal jobs. So discouraged workers, a good term for you to know. So now how to calculate it quantitatively. Simply, I'm just going to give you a summary of formulas on how to calculate first the labor force. If a question asks you to identify what is the labor force of this economy, it's basically the number of employed people plus the number of unemployed people. Then you get the total labor force. Or let's say you are told to calculate the unemployment rate. That is simply the amount of unemployed people over the labor force. So this over that, and because it's expressed as a percentage multiplied by 100, you get the unemployment rate. There is something which is, some people confuse this with the unemployment rate, so don't. It's called the labor force participation rate. It's different than the unemployment rate. Never confuse the two. Never confuse, because they're very different. It's the amount of labor force over the adult population of that nation or that region, and expressed as percentage multiplied by 100. So it's wants to see how many people in that population actually is working or wants to work. So the ratio of that labor force, adult population. And sometimes, so let's say a good trend maybe for you to carry is like we have seen rising labor force participation rate for women and for many reasons, and lower labor force participation rates for reasons sometimes are people don't know until now, or it's still very debatable for men. So labor force participation, let's say, goes up for women, goes down for men in the US. So it measures that. And to gain more insightful data, to garner more insightful data, normally the labor force participation rate is divided into subgroups. Let's say gender, race, ethnicity. So by dividing the gender, race, the labor force, measuring the labor force participation rate in subgroups, lets us see the insightfulness of the data. So maybe you can see the labor force participation rate in African Americans, labor force participation rate in Latinos or Asian Americans. By dividing it, you can compare it. It gives you more insight. So that is an overview of what the household survey is, and some formulas for you to remember: labor force, unemployment rate, and the labor force participation rate. Thank you for watching, and I hope it helps.